Welcome to Stitches in Time, the podcast discussing Doctor Who the way it was meant to be watched, in chronological order, one clip at a time, starting at the Big Bang and ending with the heat death of the universe. I'm Becca, the Matrix Archivist, and I spent the last 12 years of my life meticulously editing the entire televised Doctor Who universe into chronological order.
And I'm Mandy, and I'm not sure if I can trust again. You see, I was brought in as a very innocent person, being told that this was the correct way to watch Doctor Who. The order that I was given, what I was handed, that was the proper way. And then I received a message letting me know that my entire life was a lie. Hey, Becca, do you want to talk about what you did?
Yes,
I brought Riley. Riley is back here today to be a mediating third party because I didn't feel safe to handle this conversation alone.
Yes. Yes, I have to, I have a big apology to make, mainly to the two of you, but also to, well, I guess not really all of our listeners because they don't know what's going on. But yes, I am very sorry because originally, I'll just put it out there. I watched Doctor Who in the wrong order. Yeah. That is something that happened.
Were you maybe like someone on like a corner, maybe it like indoctrinated you, said that like, hey, I have something really fun for you to see. It's this episode of Doctor Who. And you just kind of got tricked in?
Yeah, I know I can hear the pain in your voice, and basically what happened was I had scheduled for the three of us to discuss 3 different episodes in this recording block, and then while I was researching the episodes ahead of time, I discovered that, in fact, the DVD extras First Night and Last Night don't actually happen in a randomly placed time that I had originally put them in, because that was supposed to be what this episode was about. No, it turns out it's going to be far in the future. So I just want to say that, like, I'm really sorry for any pain I might have caused. I know that, like, you know, I realized that this is the main Doctor Who podcast on the internet. I think it's like, I know it's not the only Doctor Who podcast, but it's certainly the most successful and famous, and
longest running, of course.
Longest running, yeah. I mean, we've been on since 13.8 billion BC, I want to say. So, you know, it makes sense that I just have to make this very public apology for misleading my co-host and my guest today, because I just really beefed it, y'all. I really beefed it, and I'm sorry. And like, I know that Riley, I think you were doing a lot of research on, you know, each of these episodes. It was like comprehensive. I mean, you know, listeners, if you listen to the last episode, you know, we talk about that fish for a long time, and we like really got into the lore of it, and we had all that ready to go pretty much for this episode. And then I
knew about what kind of tailcoat Matt Smith was wearing. I knew who made that top hat that he was wearing, but none of that matters now. And I don't want to get into it because I'm afraid we'll digress too much, you know?
Yeah.
Can I just say, because again, as someone, I am being led along from this. I have to put a lot of trust and faith into you, Becca, that this is the proper way to watch it. And I've been really putting my belief system in. And so we saw in the last episode, we saw one of the original incarnations of River Song, that fish, and then getting to see River Song now, it just seemed like such a payoff. And to know that that was a lie, that none of that feeling, none of that love was real, that it was just a callous mistake, that it wasn't even thought. That hurt.
Yeah.
That really hurt. It probably would have hurt more if I'd actually watched the episode before instead of watching it 5 minutes before we recorded, like I typically do.
Yeah. Do you know how it felt for me to have to skip past the sections we're not talking about to get to the sections that we were talking about? I'm mostly here to support Mandy, first and foremost, but I'm a victim in this scenario as well as the guest. And I just want to say that I'm not disappointed. I'm just mad. And I hope that you can learn to be better.
Life is all about improving and growing and changing. And I just, I'm going to do my best. It's not always going to be perfect, but, I hope that we can move past this and still be civil about what's happened. Because, today we're not talking about first night, last night, which originally was in the spot in the edit. So yeah, today we are talking about actually City of Death.
Which additionally means that I have to see my least favorite person, that horrible man, the Fourth Doctor.
Whoa, hang on.
I hate looking at him.
Wow, really?
Oh my god.
Controversy.
He's the worst, and I know, because this also has, the second Romana, whose actress's name I don't know, but she's beautiful. She is the most gorgeous woman I have ever seen, and I know those two fucked, and that is the most heinous thing.
Oh my gosh.
That is an abomination unto God.
Mandy, I think you might have to issue an apology to our fan base. I had no idea that you felt this way about Tom Baker.
I hate looking at him. He has the worst face. He's a nightmare man.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
The funny thing about Tom Baker's Doctor is that for a long time, I actually had kind of fallen off. I had a hard time getting back into him when I needed to revisit Classic Who, not for anything that I find wrong with Tom Baker in this way that Mandy does. I found it because the kind of dude who would cosplay as Tom Baker looked like the kind of dude that usually would have a beard and be wearing a fedora, and it was just the costume itself lends to appearing like someone on the internet who would tip their hat to me and then say something sexist and misogynist to me. And so it made it really hard for me to get super back into it. But then when I actually watched the era, I really liked it. But yeah, and of course, by the era, I mean, obviously, this time, the first time we're seeing him, which is in this primordial... Here's what's confusing, is this episode is set after the last episode, but the oceans don't exist yet in this episode. Yeah. There's no fish. There's no river songfish. So something happened between then and now that's really thrown off all of history.
We went from all ocean to no ocean so quickly.
Also, Lala Ward. I was going crazy trying to remember the name of the actress who played Romana 2.
Oh, no.
I literally was about to Google it, and it just popped in my head finally. I'm I love her, and I'm mad that I can't think of her name. Sorry, go ahead.
She's the most beautiful woman alive.
She's amazing. Yeah.
She is really beautiful. I mean, I probably had some my first lesbian crush was probably on Mary Tam, who played the first Romana. So I'm sorry to look. I have to stop. I have to stop offending Mandy. This is really bad.
Well, but if you look at it canonically, this will come up in a future episode. But I'm a time traveler. But
oh, congratulations!
Yeah, Mary Tam obviously had a lesbian crush on Lala Ward, which is why then when she changed form, she's like, I'm going to take this. It's that queer girl thing of do I want her or do I want to be her? And in the case of Romana, it's yes.
Yeah.
I think that's also a trans girl thing.
Yeah.
What I do want to talk about is the line that has not left my mind since, of them talking about the amniotic fluid of humanity.
The amniotic fluid from which all life on Earth will spring.
Which is the most anime bullshit line that I have heard from this series.
Oh, interesting. This clip has my to date my favorite line of dialogue that we've heard in the correct order, which is just Duggan going,
"That's a spaceship."
Yeah. I always love the sci-fi moment of somebody who is already in the middle of like bonkers thing, and then like this is the step too far of like you're fine with us traveling back in time, but not that there's a spaceship there too. Yeah.
There's a
It's just so
spaceship,
good.
and there's like an ugly, melty guy, which I would call the ugliest man to ever exist, but Tom Baker is there.
Oh, I thought you meant Tom Baker when you said that.
But it's a guy, and we do eventually go, because I guess this creature has plans, and the plan involved going into the spaceship and doing stuff. And in one version, he has monster hands, and in the other version, he has human hands.
Oh, I didn't even realize this. I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah.
It's just hitting his keyboard. And in one version, he has monster hand just thwacking that board. And in the other one, he just has people hands.
Yeah. That is true. For the listeners, this is the first time that we have done a split screen in the Stitches in Time edit, because there are two different things happening at the same time, that or in sort of these two different but related timelines that happen.
It is twice as much content, half as much comprehension as to what's going on, because they sure are talking over each other the whole time.
Yeah.
20 solids to warp thrust. Confirmed. Thrust against planet surface into power 3. Negative. Power 3 too severe. Scaroth into...
That sequence really broke my brain within the context of this show and how to talk about it for this show. It's like, wait, this happened before on the show, but it's set after this scene, but these two things are happening at the same time in the history of the universe, but only one is now happening because the other one is not appearing, and this, it's like there's so much going on.
I mean, that's the same problem I have talking about the BBC edit of this show. Is just like, oh, okay, so it's like it's airing in the 70s, but it takes place in the 1500 or the 400 million BC, or it's...
But then next week it's set in 25...
Yeah,
42?
and I just, like, I don't know how to talk about that stuff, which is why, you know, I've cut things into this order, and... Yeah.
Sometimes it means that you split things into the creature hands, people hands universe. Because that's what was going on. It split into, here's the universe where this person has creature hands, and they're just going to be like typing away on their thing, just kind of like all by themselves, and just having another time. And the other one where they have people hands, and the horrible man is there, and he's like, don't do that. Don't do that, my guy. You shouldn't. I didn't get a clear reason as to why he didn't want him to do that. But he was like, don't do that with your human hands.
So Riley, if you have not listened to the show before, we do a segment called Mandy-splaining, because Mandy has not watched a lot of classic Who. It's interesting for us to hear what Mandy thinks is happening, having only watched the Stitches in Time clips.
What I got from what Mandy just explained is that Mandy thinks this is a everything everywhere all at once situation where some universes these creatures evolve with alien hands, and other universe like this is the hot dog hands versus human hands version of Scaroth.
Yeah,
this is the moment that diversion happens.
Yeah, that splits. We get to see both versions, and apparently the Doctor just like isn't involved in Creature Hands universe, but is very heavily invested in People Hands universe.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like a matter of like having, because it's not. Cause I feel like Creature Hands still had thumb. It was like thumb and then blob. It was mitten hands, versus the other one had like full fingies, which makes it like easier to type. So it was like, oh, I don't like that you're typing. You're putting the hateful messages on the internet. That's what he was doing with his big machine. And it was like, we're so far out from the internet being invented. You can't start it off like that. Let them post some cool stuff. Let them have a good GeoCity site before you post your hate.
Go be a cat playing a keyboard or something with those paws. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that would be adorable. Just Scaroth playing a keyboard. Sorry, go ahead.
So the weird creature that was Scaroth or whatever their name is.
Yes.
Okay, they had like one eyeball.
Mm-hmm.
They had like one eyeball up in a place, and they look mostly melted.
That is true. I feel like just going back to the fact that this is a religion podcast, it seems like Scaroth is maybe like what the flying spaghetti monster mythos is based on, because it's just spaghetti tendrils for a face.
I also have to appreciate the bit and before we do the split screen and they come out into the TARDIS, they're in a place that was like, this will be the ocean, even though it was the ocean. It was the ocean, and now it's not the ocean, and now it shall be the ocean again. But now it's the amniotic fluid of humanity. And the doctor is explaining this to some guy that I don't know who he is. He's not the horrible man. He is not the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. He's just also there. And he's like, are you saying I'm goo? And the doctor's like, yeah, we come from goo. And he's like, no. And that's how you know that he's a Christian. Because he saw the goo and it was like, absolutely not. I am not this goo. I came from Jesus Christ.
The only goo I'm from is from the good Lord.
That is perfect. This was my difficulty with this because, I was editing this and several times throughout they're like, this is 400 million years in the past, 400 million years in the past. So it's like they say it over and over again. Multiple characters. It's not just that one time when Matt Smith got it wrong because he wasn't paying attention to David Tennant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do say this a lot. And given, Becca, you're not on a great track record of getting the times right.
Yeah. So I obviously had to quadruple check all of my work.
Yeah, it sounds like you're blaming the doctor when it really you should be blaming yourself.
No, this one's on it. No, this does actually in the edit take place in 400 million BC, but the oceans existing versus not existing is actually here's my headcanon that I have had to do many backflips over into in the interest of continuity, as is my want. That I think when he says this will be the Atlantic Ocean, I think maybe there's some continental drift happening. I think there's some tectonic activity.
Okay,
where
you
he's
think that Pangea's still there?
Yeah, Pangea's in the way. This is gonna be the ocean, but right now it's a landmass, and then somewhere off in Canada is where a fish crawled out onto the...
Okay, I want to give this to you, but here's why that doesn't work. Here's why this is still flawed, not from you, but because of the show putting different time periods. And it probably is just a matter of the 70s not having as accurate of a dating structure as they don't have OkCupid and stuff like that yet as the late 20-teens did. Because it's not just this will be the ocean. It's that Tom Baker, the strikingly charismatic guy with the curly hair and the hat.
The horrible man.
Can I say the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my life? Continue, Riley.
I'm going to quit this podcast.
That seems. I like Tom Baker a lot. That seems like a stretch. That seems like a stretch. I've seen a lot of. I like Tom Baker quite a bit. That seems not true. But no, not the kink shame for Becca.
I need to be clear. I have heard nothing but good things about Tom Baker as a person. I'm sure he is fine. I'm sure he's very nice. He can't help his face. I come up from a long line of people with horrifying faces. We can't help it.
Okay, hang on. No, I'm not letting you call yourself that. No, you have a gorgeous
I'm not calling
face.
myself.
Okay,
I'm
you said we can't help it. So I'm just letting you.
That is true.
Okay.
Like the features came in correctly, but like if I show my
fair.
grandfather or my uncle or even my brother's kind of inheriting those traits as well of horrifying man face. And horrifying, you can't help horrifying man face, but that doesn't stop.
Don't
the
I
fact
know
that
it?
it's
Don't I know it?
horrifying.
Unfortunately, yeah. I unfortunately, yes, I was also born with a horrifying man face, but
No, it's something from England. England and Ireland.
I'm something from England and Ireland, so yeah, totally. The problem with the previous clip from last episode that I was on and this one is not just the ocean or not the ocean, because this is as Mandy has said it, the amniotic fluid that life comes from. It is distinctly said in this thing that the radiation from Scaroth's ship, when it explodes, is the radiation that triggers the chain reaction that causes life to exist on Earth. Up until this moment, there's no life on Earth, there's just this fluid. And so this is basically the moment in the Star Trek episode All Good Things where Q is like, oh, no, they didn't. Like, That's what's happening right now. And that's why they have to stop Scaroth from fixing the flaw in his ship and escaping without fixing it, because they need this ship to explode to create life on Earth. So based on that aspect of it, that fish, the hot Canadian fish, cannot be there unless that's, we talked about that fish being River Song, and I guess that has to be our one thing, is that River Song went back in time and came through. But I guess the only way
as an alternate, a backup plan, like she'll repopulate.
Yeah. It's a Janeway Tom Paris situation. Or, you know what? Actually, this can be solved based on the thing that Mandy put a stop to in the last episode, which is acknowledging that the lie of the land scene is a complete and total lie, and Peter Capaldi made up he said the wrong time frame as part of his lie.
That is that may be part of it. The other thing that I was thinking was, maybe there's some life in the ocean. We're talking like very.
I know there's
basic
water at the bottom of the ocean. I know that.
Yeah,
Taught that by Talking Heads. Okay.
You go your theory, and then I have a theory.
My theory is that maybe Tom Baker is wrong about this being the amniotic fluid where all life comes from, but like maybe this is where
the good life comes from.
Yeah, like the sweet life.
The sweet life,
Cody.
Like, I could get used to this. That was my bad Tom Baker impression.
Maybe this is where like human beings sprung from, and this is maybe the catalyst in evolution that like otherwise maybe we would have not had any like higher like sentient forms of life. Maybe it would have all just been fish and lizards and stuff.
And my theory is that that fish that came out died. I think that fish died. I think that fish got real thirsty and it was like, I'm gonna slurp up the entire ocean, and that's why the ocean's gone. Slurped up the whole ocean. And you know what happens when you slurp up the whole ocean? You die. So
yeah. Also, I do think that regardless, that fish definitely died. I don't think that fish is still with us, living immortally today, 400 million years later.
But they were so excited. They were like, oh, life's gonna begin with this fish. And then the fish slurped the ocean, died, and they went, oh shit, we need to get something else. And so that's where we get the plan B of Scaroth with hands and without hands.
This fish is a Moopsie situation. I gotcha. Okay.
I like all of these theories, really. They're all solid and completely airtight.
Yeah. Sometimes you make mistakes.
I wouldn't know. I don't understand. No, I've never made a mistake in my life.
This is really an episode helping me to understand that sometimes innocent mistakes get made and you have to come up with your backup plan. And my backup plan was to watch this episode instead of what I was supposed to watch. And the universe's backup plan was, instead of fish, we're gonna have this guy explode.
Which also might cause some fish.
and hopefully get more fish.
Which actually works as well because our backup plan was just to do the episode we were going to do next anyway. And so the universe's backup plan was to also just do what they were going to do next anyway.
Yeah.
Or it's possible this episode proves that, like, oh, that was the lie of the land, because obviously the creation of all life on Earth was God, the one true God of the heavens above us. So
Right, yeah. Which, I mean, I think obviously that implies that, like, you know, all of this stuff is not actually true because, as we all know, the Earth is 6,000 years old.
And flat.
I do have a question, because I was thinking about this of, like, initially I was like, oh, the fish died because the fish drank the ocean. But we did see that PA earlier. We saw that PA with the foot. Did he kill the fish?
Uh-oh.
Do you think he killed the fish?
Maybe you stepped on it by accident. Somebody said, but your foot's in the shot. You have to move. And he didn't understand what direction he was supposed to move. So he, like, took a step forward and just squashed the fish and was like, oh no, I've destroyed the evolutionary cycle.
In the fiction, if you take that foot as the monk, somebody, like that shot of the monk watching the fish come out of the ocean, it wasn't that the monk was shepherding that fish, is that the monk saw that fish as potentially an apex predator threat to the survival of humanity, so he killed the fish right then and there.
That predator, that person holding it, that was the Fourth Doctor. That was Tom Baker going, no, I know how how life begins. I'm not letting this happen. So he went back and he was like, I'm going to stomp this out, literally, because I know how it really happened.
He held the fish up and went, do I have the right?
It's only by watching the show in this way that you know why the Fourth Doctor is a horrible man, because he stomped on that fish. He stomped on that fish. And then he was like, oh, it's only me. It's only me by letting Scaroth explode. That's the only way that humanity can be real, when he knew. He knew we were doing it already.
So I do have another cool little fact about this story, which was it was written by Douglas Adams under the pen name David Agnew because of there's some legal stuff, whatever. But during the broadcast of this story, in fact, between episodes 2 and 3, The Hitchhiker's Guide was published for the first time.
No.
Which if you either watch the movie or read the Hitchhiker's Guide book with the knowledge that he had been working on Doctor Who, it is very clearly Doctor Who fan fiction. It is clearly Doctor Who with the serial numbers filed off.
I mean, wasn't it? I know that Dirk Gently definitely was, but wasn't Hitchhiker's also, like, basically he had written it to be Doctor Who and then just, like, it didn't get made into the show, so he took it and made his own thing out of it?
Yeah, I think that was a lot of it, and even stuff that did make it into the show, like, you know, there are a lot of, like, parallels that you can see to Doctor Who.
But Ford Prefect is the Doctor, and then it's just the idea of taking Doctor Who, but from the perspective of a companion who now has to have a fucked up adventure that they don't want to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that Dirk Gently specifically is literally an episode. He took a Doctor Who script and just changed it a little bit. Like, he took an actual script and did it. So
there's at least, I can't remember which one it is, but one of the Doctor Who, one of the Hitchhiker's Guide books is also that. But I would go as far to say the entire premise.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I'm with you on that. Yeah. I was just wondering if it was, like, specifically that level of, like, was it, like, completely a Doctor Who written story that he then just shifted the same way, like,
I think
50 Shades was for Twilight.
Only one of the books was like very much like, here was a script that they didn't do for Doctor Who, so he just put it in here. But I feel like most of that story is like, this is very similar. This is very similar once you realize. And because he's a good writer, you don't notice that it's very similar, but it is very similar.
Yeah.
So I just found this on the TARDIS wiki. Adams reused concepts of this story's plot for Dirk Gently most notably that of a crashed spaceship providing the original impulse leading to the formation of life on Earth, and the fact that the ship's pilot survives to see the rest of humanity and then works to procure a time machine for himself and undo the whole series of events eradicating life on Earth. Which, I mean, spoilers for future episodes of Stitches in Time, but...
I mean, it's that's said in this episode.
Yeah, that's a lot of that is right here, right now.
Yeah.
But in one half of the screen. In the other half, he works quietly.
That's my least favorite thing about reading books is that the left page is always one timeline and the right page is always another timeline.
Beck, I think you're reading manga. I think that actually is a thing that happens.
That does sound like a manga thing.
I do like, what's the line that Scaroth has right before he gets punched where he's like, I don't do this! Like, or like, I reject it. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he has a really funny line.
History cannot change. It cannot.
I will change it!
That reminds me of the guys in Mad Max. They're like, I live, I die, I live again!
Whatever it is, I will edit it in there.
Yeah. It's right before when he's like, that may be the most important punch in all of history. Yeah, like...
Which I also love that line.
Yeah. It's like, well, hey, doctor, in the future, you're going to punch a racist, so sometimes there's some better punches.
But without this punch, how would the racists exist to be punched?
Yeah. That's a good point.
If the Fourth Doctor hadn't stomped out that fish, we actually wouldn't have had Hitler.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And it's especially messed up because now we know that fish was River Song, and that's how River Song actually died. It was not a pre-incarnation; it was a post-incarnation.
Stopping the fish is why she regenerated into the little girl.
Yeah, well, she made it out of the library, but as a fish, and be like, okay, I can make this work. Nope.
Well, obviously, we know that when River makes it out of the library, she's canonically Melissa Phoenix, the very canonical character from the game of Rassilon. So just
right. Yeah.
Played by Gugu Mbatha-Raw. So.
Oh my God, I would love that so much.
I did too. So would I, which is why I wrote it into an episode of our RPG series. But I should tell the listeners, Gugu Mbatha-Raw did not appear in our podcast. I just used her as a description for the character.
That's sort of what I meant, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is very much voiced by Riley Silverman.
Yeah, she's played by a white woman regardless.
Yeah.
Now, are you doing a problematic Gugu Mbatha-Raw impression?
No, absolutely not. No,
Okay.
I mean, it would just be a British accent, really. I think, but yeah,
That's fair. Yeah.
or it would be her American accent from Loki. Like it would be
Perfection.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else really for this episode except, I'm glad life is allowed to exist.
Me too.
I am very happy that we saw the Fourth Doctor. We got him out of the way. I look forward to never seeing him again.
Yeah.
Which I trust will happen with Stitches in Time.
Oh, Mandy. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
I certainly will see more of him than any other Doctor.
Yeah, he's like most of... Well, he's not most of Doctor Who.
That's David Tennant.
That's true.
And David Tennant just has the problem of, I have to consciously listen to David Tennant.
Yeah, we
He's
talked...
easy to tune out.
We talked previously about how Mandy apparently does not register that David Tennant is talking whenever David Tennant is talking.
Oh, wow.
So, between not wanting to look at David Tennant, not wanting to look at Fourth Doctor, I'm just like, what is the rest of this podcast going to be? You've said you can't watch a season of Torchwood. Like, it is...
Well, with David Tennant, I feel like right now, especially, it's very relevant that David Tennant may actually have ended up being the secret sauce required to get more of the general public to actually care about transphobia, because they won't come to the defense of trans people, but they will come to the defense of David Tennant coming to the defense of trans people. And honestly, at this point, I'll take that as a win, because I want somebody to be talking about this. But like, yeah, David Tennant's getting a huge, at this current moment, like surge in like because he had that "you have to go through me" shirt, and then a lot of people were standing in front of David Tennant saying you'll have to go through us to get to him before they have to go through him to get to the rest of us.
Yeah. We're actually just in a big circular conga line with David Tennant and all trans people.
Yeah. It's like a Lorax situation where it's like we're trying to protect the Lorax so that they don't get to the trees.
Right.
It was a wild thing of I just saw a bunch of it was like, can you see what J.K. Rowling said about David Tennant? But like, have you not seen all the things that she said about trans women?
Yeah.
Well, as usual, I think we'll call it there when J.K. Rowling pops up in our conversation. What is next? Oh, okay. Next time we're going back to Hyde. We're not hiding. I mean, the episode titled Hyde.
You're going to turn from Jekyll into Hyde. Gotcha.
Oh, but I have a really good spot picked out. I won't tell you, but you'll never find me.
Great. Riley, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I'm on most of the social medias as Riley Silverman. If you can't find me that way, didn't add a J, Riley J. Silverman. But I think I'm Riley Silverman on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky, which is what I use the most these days. And then also, so Dungeons & Dragons has a new edition coming out later this year, and I have been very busy writing articles about things from that new edition on D&D Beyond, the website. So go to dndbeyond.com and look for my name as an author, and you'll find lots of little preview things, upcoming stuff that I worked on. So I'm happy with it.
Amazing. And to be clear, this is if people are upset with things in the new edition of Dungeons & Dragons, they should blame you directly because you're the
has happened,
mastermind of all of this.
Yeah, I have personally
Were you the one who made the orcs Mexican?
No.
Cool. Well, thank you, Riley, so much for being on this chunk of episodes, and we'd love to have you back at some point. Do you have a favorite Doctor or favorite era of stuff?
What if I was like fourth Doctor? No, my favorite's obvious. My favorite is Peter Capaldi, and then I think that's like. Yeah, favorite Doctor for sure. Favorite era, I think also. I think that I tend to be a Moffat girl. I know it's like is very unpopular in some forms of the internet, but there's something about the Moffat eras, like when they're good, they're like my favorite ways for modern Doctor Who, especially. And then as far as classic Who, I do actually love the Tom Baker era because I feel like especially like around this time is what feels the most like modern Who to me in ways, and like there's like lots of fun like horror movie type era parts of his era. And then after Tom Baker, I would go with Patrick Troughton. I like Troughton's era a lot too. So, and then I have a particular love for Colin Baker's because it just gets real weird. It doesn't know what it wants to do yet, and it's very fun.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast, and we'll have you back at some point.
Great,
if you want. If you
awesome.
Can forgive me.
Hey,
for
next
my
time, could you make sure the minutes are actually in the right
order?
order next time I'm back?
Yeah.
Could you just make sure? Hey, Becca, can you look at me? Next time I come back on the show, can you make sure the minutes are in the right order?
Hey, Becca, next time can you not be a horrible liar?
Bye,
I really
everyone.
appreciate that.
I'm calling. The episode's over now.
Thanks for listening to Stitches in Time. Music by Becca the Matrix Archivist. Art by Mandy Ukendo. Logo by Ben Padden. Please make sure to rate us and leave us a nice review. It helps new fans find the show.
Hartnell, Troughton, Pertwee, Baker, Davis, Baker, McCoy, McGann, Eccleston, War. Wait, McGann.
Why is it War? War was also played by an actor.
That's fair. That's fair. Hurt.
What was that in between Doctor played by the concept of two countries coming and fighting and like murdering all of their civilians.
Oh yeah, he was my favorite Doctor.
Richard E. Grant. We don't know where to put him yet.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have to figure out what I'm gonna do about that because yeah, as it happens, like right now, Screaming the Shalka is not in this edit because
It wasn't canon until now.
It wasn't canon. And even now, I'm just like, I don't... I mean, maybe...
I come from that soup?
Yes. Well, not that soup exactly.
Also, my curtain wants to blow open so badly and then like bathe me in washed out lights.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to keep it from doing that since I know that I'm on camera now.
I have a window here, so I was like, you're not going to see any of my features, which also means you don't see any of the zits I currently have.
I'm so animated when I talk that my watch registered me having stood, even though I was definitely sitting down. But I think as I was doing this and like moving on.
You've thrown the dice once, you don't get a second throw.
I am so sorry for the audio wave that Becca has to edit, because I've been screaming this whole time.
Look, I mean, Mandy, one of the reasons I love having you as my co-host on this podcast is your passion, and you know, nothing can ever take that away. Not even audio compression.
Not even me asking you to.